proud that we spent and borrowed money to keep this economy going. The national government should not be proud of borrowing for tax cuts for landlords and tax cuts for tobacco companies. Madam Speaker, let's look at the economic reality. In every one of the indicators of our economy, we're going backwards. Unemployment in March, compared to the projections that were there under the post-COVID government and the reality we faced, every one of the indicators is worse now than it would have been if Labor had continued in government. Unemployment will be higher. The debt to GDP ratio will be higher under this government. Madam Speaker, GDP growth will be lower than had we kept a Labor government in place, Madam Speaker, and inflation will be higher. Madam Speaker, the only thing that the Minister of Finance crows about is actually the lower interest rates. Well, if you come into government and you strangle the economy and it's stumbling along the bottom, then the only thing that the Reserve Bank can do and the Governor can do is lower interest rates. And they've kept lowering and lowering and lowering and hoping that the economy will turn around. We hear promises of a U-turn. Madam Speaker, the bottom line is that people who need jobs get low-paid part-time jobs, and we want to ensure that they have high-paid, secure jobs. Those people who want health care can't get in the door, and the National Coalition Government promises more private hospitals. We don't think more private hospitals equates to better health care. We say that better access to GP services. That's why we're promising 3 free visits. Madam Speaker, homes are more than houses. And the government is trying to claim that more houses are being built, but I'd suggest to them that no more homes are being created, because the requirements that we put on landlords to have better standards of housing, the requirements that we put in place to ensure a high quality of housing have been removed by a government that is desperate to get things moving. Madam Speaker, we're looking forward to a change of government at the end of this year and protecting New Zealanders, giving them better, more secure jobs, ensuring they get access to proper health care, and ensuring that the houses that are being built become homes that are secure places for them and their families.
Just before I call Dr. Rurawhe, just notifying him that the House will lift at 5:40, so probably towards the end of his speech, for the agreed time for the valedictory. Call on the Honourable Dr. Shane Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support of the PM statement, I too want to start with a reflection on the recent weather events across all of the country, including Northland, the first area to go into a state of emergency, but also to extend heartfelt commiserations to all of the families who have lost loved ones. For Whangarei and Northland, I want to acknowledge the Prime Minister and Minister Mark Mitchell for getting up close with those who have been affected in Northland, getting hands-on, and I want to thank them for their work last week and last weekend, and Northland MP Grant McCullum, who's beside me, where most of the affected areas actually are in his electorate. I want to acknowledge Mayor Cooper and the Whangarei District Council and the Emergency Operations Centre for their work and actions, and for the rapid response team who came up from Auckland last weekend. Many others have also been involved, including Minister Upston, who took my call when the Emergency Operations Centre called me and said they needed to open Kakaporuani, the Taringa Parawa marae in the middle of the city, for homeless and displaced. But the problem was that all the marae kaimahi were actually out helping with other maraes. Could we help? Minister Upston immediately said yes and passed me on to MSD Commissioner Rena, who also said yes, and Debbie Power was also assisting in having that marae opened. Can I also acknowledge Maria Meno Kapakingi, who called me to discuss opening that marae and for us to make decisions as to who would do what, and to cross-check that the required actions had been undertaken. MP Huhana was actually out at Ngāti Wai, that's her iwi as well as mine, and Ropata, who was coordinating the 7 marae out in the affected areas. I would just note the severely affected township of Oakura. The closest marae is actually my family marae, the Reti family marae, between the Oakura turnoff and the Punaruku LDS Church. And amongst 7 other marae, I want to thank all of them who have opened up and made their services and resources available. Mr. Speaker, for the past 2 years, we've been looking to how we can fix the basics, such as school attendance, how we can improve that, violent crime, how we can decrease those figures, how we can look at having a decreased gang presence, and how we can reduce inflation. And as we start to fix the basis, this serves as a platform to build the future through NCEA reform, so that we can improve our education standards, build the future through RMA reform, so that we can reduce red tape and unlock unreasonable hurdles, build the future so that we can progress KiwiSaver to be more useful to everyone as well. Now, everyone agrees that we need to increase New Zealander productivity. Multiple governments have said that. And the Prime Minister's identified 5 particular productivity actions to improve growth: talent development across the whole education sector, business setting improvements, for example, RMA reform, increasing our global trade and investment, for example, Invest New Zealand and FTAs such as those with India, using modern science, which I want to come back to boost economic output, and infrastructure for growth. I want to especially focus on the item using modern science to boost economic output. And for the past 2 years, we've been reforming the science sector. The problems we were trying to solve were across the science sector: overutilisation and underutilisation, too much competition, too little competition, poor alignment across all of the science sector actors, poor alignment with industry, poor alignment with government priorities, and dispersed science funding across MOE, TEC and MB. Now, a year ago in the State of the Nation speech, the Prime Minister announced the biggest science reforms in 30 years. And for the past 2 years, we've been looking to enable that. We've progressed 7 substantive reforms and 5 impact programs, which I want to describe. The Prime Minister's Science, Innovation and Technology Advisory Committee, we have established that. We've been meeting multiple times. I chair that. Remember, this gives us some of the structural shape of what other small advanced economies look like and what they do with science. The Singapores of this world, the islands of this world, have one core strategic body, and as do we now, PIMSTAC. Operationalising these strategic priorities from PIMSTAC is Research Funding New Zealand, and today I have announced the Board of Research Funding New Zealand, chaired by Dr Emma Blott, the members being Professor Aidan Byrne, Professor Amanda Barnard, Professor Brett Cowan, Professor Diane Gleeson, Dr Mika Foster, Distinguished Professor Sir Peter Hunter and Dr Sue Bedrose. Thank you very much for your collective wisdom and help in operationalising some of these strategies which we're looking to pass into place. The third action that we've undertaken is amalgamating the 7 CRIs into 3 PROs, public research organisations, bringing together Landcare, Ag Research, Scion and Plant and Food. We were in the bizarre situation, for example, at Lincoln, where we had land research on one side of the road, at Landcare and Ag Research on the other, where they almost needed a an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to cross the road and have discussions. We're not big enough a country that we can afford that sort of largesse. NIWA and GNF Earth Science, I want to thank them particularly for these weather events. Now, they were already collaborating, and now we're able to give them some formality around that structure, and I believe this weather event has seen the benefits of that. I want to put to you that the amalgamation of these 7 Crown Research Institutes may be some sort of template for how we might bring large state-owned enterprises together, because many of us have lived through the Health New Zealand amalgamation, and I personally didn't enjoy that. And to Pukenga as well, I would suggest that that was problematic. But if there is one example, I want to thank everyone who contributed to that. Bringing these 7 CRIs together into 3 PROs is an example of things working together. And we're getting those benefits already. We're seeing facilities benefits where Ag Research is sharing with Scion. We're seeing those benefits of collaboration where for the first time in November at Massey University, I brought together the 8 Vice-Chancellors and the 7 Chief Executives of the CRIs into the one room, for which they said was probably the first time in maybe 15 years they'd been together. Very quickly, within a week or two, they'd come together with a Memorandum of Understanding and then a work program talking about how we can bring universities and Crown research institutes, now PROs, together. Creating the 4th public research organisation from scratch, the New Zealand Institute for Advanced Technology. Its purpose is to drive commercialisation through advanced technologies. It's one particular pillar of the science sector where we have had a deficit, and to be able to focus that, not only just to create it and to ethereally have it on a whiteboard as a structural item, but to actually already be commissioning $70 million of Robinson's research work. And if we look up to the skies tonight, we may not see it, but on the International Space Station, Hickey, the multi-million-dollar project from Robinson's research, which was deployed at the end of last year, the first ever high-temperature superconducting magnet up in space, and it's a Kiwi product coming out of Robinson's research, doing cutting-edge research. It's been so successful. What was actually supposed to be, I think, a 6-week program has actually now been doubled, and it will stay bolted on to the International Space Station for up to 3 months. Artificial intelligence, the request for information, 5 shortlisted proposals, excellent proposals from industry, and quantum into an exploratory phase as well. We've produced a national artificial intelligence strategy, a strategy that is light touch, a strategy that has safeguards, a strategy that is internationally aligned with the 5 OECD principles. We've also looked at how we can increase commercialisation through a national IP policy, setting some direction around how we might bring together all the disparate means that universities particularly focus on intellectual property. Weather forecasting, I want to thank the House for the unanimous support at first reading. Everyone just gets that NIWA and Met Service should be together, and I think we've seen some of these benefits during this weather outbreak. And many other beneficial activities. Research development, tax incentive, well supported. Game developers, doubled the funding to code. Applied doctorates, I got information last week. This is where doctorates are aligned, PhDs are aligned with industry. Double and triple the numbers that we were expecting. Very successful. Antarctica, our first funded, of course we turn our eyes to climate change. The first formal memorandum of understanding with the United States for 3 projects which we've announced in Antarctica. And I think what's also exciting is the $40 million biodiversity program, and here's why. There's 80,000 indigenous species in New Zealand, and we only know the scientific description of about 35,000 of them. Somewhere in there, in those 80,000, is the next cancer drug. Somewhere in there is the next nutraceutical. And you know, here's the good thing. Māori have advanced knowledge. Indigenous knowledge puts them in front of this whole biodiscovery platform. A really good example of Mātauranga and Western science coming together to give us real, tangible benefits. Mr. Speaker, science will be an important part of our future, and building the science future looks at how we can be best at here in New Zealand. What should we do? What should we leave to others? What do we have track record? What are we invited to into international panels? And how can we get that dividend from our science spend? Thank you to everyone who's progressed the reforms, the universities who are also changing and adapting through the universities advisory group, and how they can collaborate to our economic endeavours as well. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of other portfolios, statistics, the important work they're doing for modernising the census. I don't think people quite get that it's an annual census. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Just inform the House that the House will post the waiata following the valedictory. I call on the Right Honourable Adrian Rurawhe to deliver his valedictory speech.
Korore hareruia ki a koe iwa ngā mano tua uriruri whai o kino tone te rangi me te whenua I te nui o tau kororea. No reira, te māngai hei tautoko mai, ai nei, ake nei, ai. Ka tuku mihi atu au ki te ariki nui koeni ngā wai hono I te pō, po te tau, te whero, te tuawaru. Tēnei te mihi ake ki a koe tapu koeni. E mihi o ki au ki ngā mana whenua o te whenua e tuana tēnei paremata, te atiawa, anei taku mihi atu ki a koutou. Kei te mihi o ki au ki te tūmaki o te hāhi rātana, manu au te koha mutunga tāmau, me tana hoa rangatira rangi Māori, tēnā kōrua o tira tō tāua iwi mōrehu, tēnā tātou. Kei te mihi o ki au ki ngā mema katoa o tēnei whare. E tika ana kia tuake e te tuatahi kia tuku atu tēnei mihi. Nō reira, tēnā tātou. Mr. Speaker, last week when I informed my colleagues that I was going to retire from politics, I told them also that I just wanted to leave quietly and I would not be doing a valedictory speech. I can tell you, if you want to upset 33 Labour MPs, tell them you're not doing a valedictory speech.
I'm not sure that I could upset them with that. Because, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever upset so many people so quickly. Anyway, my leader, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins, said, you've got to do a speech. And at the time, he did not know that I'd never disobeyed an instruction from our leader. And so here I am. However, I will deliver a speech, but I did not write a speech. So whatever comes out of my mouth... And there are plenty of stories I could tell just from the people sitting in this room. One of the greatest honours of my political career is actually to sit in the seat that you are sitting in, Mr. Speaker, and to be the Speaker. And I'll talk briefly about that later on. But I don't think anyone comes to this House to be the Speaker of the House. Well, not deliberately anyway. I certainly didn't. And if you had told me when I came through these doors in 2014 that I would be the Speaker of the House one day, I would have a good old laugh and wonder, what the hell is that one on? That's not the reason I came here. I came here to be the best electorate MP for Te Ao that I could be, and to represent the people and to advocate for the things that were important to them. And so the very first thing I want to do is acknowledge the people of that electorate that gave their confidence to me for 3 terms. Te Ao is the biggest electorate in North Island. It's as big as Taiwan. It's diverse. It has an urban area, Porirua. It has provincial cities like Palmerston North, Whanganui, New Plymouth. It has rural towns and a lot of farming areas. And within there is also a diverse range of iwi that I got to engage with. See how good I am. I'm going to attempt to name them all, because there's a few. So I'll start. Ngāti tō rangatira. Te awa ki whakarongotai, Ngāti raukaua ki te tonga, Ngāti kauwhata, rangitāne ki Manawatū, ngā wairiki Ngāti apa, ngā iwi o Mōkai Pātia, Ngāti Hauati, Ngai te Ohuake, Ngāti Whiti Kaupeka, Ngāti Tamau Kōpiri, ngā iwi o Wanganui, ngā hapu o Wanganui, te korowai o Wainui a Rua, Ngāti Hāua, Ngāti Rangi, ngā iwi o Taranaki, ngā rauru ki Tahi, Ngāti Ruanui, ngā rua hene rangi, Taranaki iwi, Te Atiawa,
Ngāti Tama, Ngāti Maru, Ngāti Mutunga. Haere aku, going over towards Lake Taupo, Ngāti Tūwhare Toa, Ngāti Maniapoto, Raukawa. Diverse range of iwi that I engaged with for 9 years as their representatives. Really, really challenging to do that. And I'm sure my whanaunga, Debbie Ngārewa Peka, is finding out that very fact. Because even Tariana was criticised at not being everywhere in the electorate. It's a tough electorate to get around because of that diversity of different waka, different iwi. In the time that I've been here, in that electorate, less than half of them had settled their treaty claims. And so I got to represent their interests on all of their settlements, many settlements. So many, I probably name the ones that are not yet settled are Tātiawa ki Whakarongotai, Ngāti Raukawa ki Te Tonga. We've got Mōkai Pātia who have signed an agreement in principle. We have Ngāti Hoa who will have its third reading tomorrow. Wanganui, Ngā Hapu o Wanganui are going through ratification of their initial deed of settlement. And I think that's it. So in that time, it's been a real honour to have spoken on so many of those settlements, and as an electorate MP, I really enjoyed doing that. In 2017, what a tumultuous election that was. We came through it and we found ourselves in government. And of course, they were allocating roles. The Right Honourable Chris Hipkins was the shadow leader of the House, or the leader of the House, sorry. And he gave me a call and he said, asked me if I'd be Assistant Speaker, and wasn't too keen on that. Said, oh, how about Junior Whip? Yep, give me that, I'll do that one. Even packed up and moved into the Junior Whip's office. Then, about 3 days later, he rings me again and he says, would you reconsider? Jacinda wants you to do that role. And I'm thinking, pull that Jacinda card, eh? And I had a conversation with a few people. I said, yep, I'll do it only if Trevor agrees and only if I can be on the Māori Affairs Select Committee. So I go to Trevor and I have a conversation with him, and he says, and I said, oh, well, I'm only going to do it if you agree. And he said, oh, that's good because I'm the one who asked for you. I kind of think that the likes of, well, the Right Honourable Sir Trevor Mallard probably saw things in me that I didn't even see in myself. And so I thought to myself, well, if they think I can do it, well, I'm going to do it then, and I'm going to do the best job that I can do. And to be part of a team that needs many different working parts. Of course, we all want to be ministers, but not everyone can be. And there are valuable roles outside of that as well. and if you're a true team player, you will do whatever's the best for your party. I'm not just talking about my party, but it's probably a good lesson for everyone to learn, because you never actually know where they might lead to. I certainly didn't. I didn't think that I would go any further than on being a presiding officer. You know, most people were telling me it's a dead end. There's no way out of that role. So myself and Portal Williams, Honourable Portal Williams, she was the other Assistant Speaker. You know, we really worked hard together. We were both brand new to that role, and we both learned really quickly. We had incredible help from the Office of the Clerk. In particular, I want to mention Suze Jones, the Deputy Clerk at that time, who ran our briefings every day. And actually on my first day as an Assistant Speaker was the 8th of November 2017. Those who know will know why I remember that date. And Raf Gonzalez Montero gave me a quick course on how to use all the buttons and switches and what have you during the dinner break. And at 7:30, after the bells ring, I was in that chair. And I remember it because not long into the process, Ian Lees Galloway decides he's going to take a point of order. And so he does. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And as my colleague is saying, I don't think he did either. And all I said was, sounded all right to me. So just carry on. So that was my baptism into that particular role. About 3 weeks after that, I've got to mention this, 3 or 4 weeks, I'm pretty brand new and had learnt lots in that short time. During a committee stage, during urgency, about 10 minutes to 1, I accepted a closure motion. Now this part of what we were debating had about 30 minutes worth of voting on it. Maybe a more experienced presiding officer, rightly or wrongly, might have looked at the clock and thought, let's do that after question time. But being new and diligent, the debate's over, it's over. So I accepted it. Wow. Jamie Lee Ross had a mini meltdown. And boy, was that a baptism by fire, because his points of order, and obviously members on around him were under his instruction because they were all jumping up, taking points of order as well. I'm really thankful I had David Bagnall sitting next to me as clerk in the chair. He provided really quick, succinct advice, often while I was on my feet, probably 5 or 6 words. No, you can't do this, blah, blah. You know, okay. And I'll turn that into a ruling. In the end, the speaker had to be recalled. So Trevor came back in, and I think the ruling that he made that day has made accepting closure motions from a presiding officer's view of the world much easier. I think that's a great outcome. At the time, though, I was thinking, I should bloody name this fella. God. Consequent events later on made me think, I'm glad I didn't. It was a huge learning experience, I can tell you that. Anyway, we got to 2020, and you know, like I said, everyone wants to be minister, and I was in New Plymouth. The boarding call had been made, and Jacinda Ardern rang me, said about what jobs everyone was going to get, you know, and she asked me to be deputy speaker. And I said, I'm just hopping on a plane, can I call you back when I get to Wellington? So I had a lot of things on my mind. I thought, I'm going to ask you, why can't I be a minister? So I had all this time up in the air to think about all of this, and got to Wellington and had thought things through. I thought, first of all, I'll agree to being the deputy speaker, but I'm going to ask you some specific questions about the future. My specific questions were, do I have a pathway through this to be a minister, or do I have a pathway through this to being the actual speaker? Because in my mind, if there were no pathways, then really that's probably as far as I'm going to go. And I've always been a pragmatist and been honest with myself. And I knew that if, someone else could do a better job, then I would easily walk away from it. She said both pathways were open. So I thought, okay then. Sounds good to me. But even then I didn't think I'd actually be speaker. Then gradually Trevor started delegating different jobs to me. Some members might remember I started doing question time on Thursdays. We used to call it Deputies Day. We had the Deputy Clerk, Deputy Speaker. We had the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, the Deputy Prime Minister on Thursdays. So, yeah, that's what we used to call it at the back, Deputies Day. So, all of that led up to a call from Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who told me that what the plans were going to be and that she was going to nominate me to be the Speaker, and that I couldn't tell anybody, which I did not. So yeah, that's basically the pathway I had to that role. I pinch myself almost every day, and wonder how this guy from Ratanapa gets to be the Speaker of this House. But in that role, I have a number of people to acknowledge Dr. David Wilson. Actually, all of the Office of the Clerk, they do an amazing job. I enjoyed the briefings that I had with the clerk. I think they were really valuable. I learned so much from that advice. It was always clear to me where there was no option, because he articulated the advice in such a way that it was clear that is the only pathway for this. And he'd also make it really clear where there were different options depending on how I was thinking about it, which I really appreciated. You know, at this stage, I've got a number of staff that were directly reporting to me that I want to acknowledge. First of all, in my electorate offices, I should say. Chelsea Manuel, Pauline Tahoe, Sharon Clare, Pekaida Ray, Gayleen Napier, Tawira Allen, Natasha Rewati were all of my staff in my electorate. My parliament staff, in the almost 12 years I've had 2 EAs. First one was Zane Tawiramu Jarvis. He seemed to know everyone in this building, and he was determined to introduce me to all of them, whether I wanted to or not. He was probably exactly what I needed as a brand new MP. He was really meticulous. I know he's watching in London, and he was exactly what I needed right then. He even chose and trained his replacement, Tian Gush, who also was my SPS in the Speaker's office. Actually, what one... gosh, I'm seeing faces now and I'm thinking there's so many other things. Yeah, there's Tian. Well, what would I... She made me look a lot better than I actually am. So she did. It's true. And was and is always very, very good at her job, and I appreciate that. In the Speaker's office, I also had Brooke Lacey. She's still, I think she's in one of the government offices. Very good worker indeed. There's one that's wasn't paid through any of my budgets, but I claim him anyway because he was based in the Speaker's office, and that's Mr. Roland Todd. Kind of an institution in himself in this place. 30 years in here, I think, am I right? Is it Speaker number 8? Yeah. And he was a wealth of knowledge. I'd sometimes go and say, Roland, what did Jonathan do? And listen, or what did Trevor do? And he would know. I'm sure he could probably sit in that chair and make some pretty good rulings. But I really appreciated the institutional knowledge that he carried and was able to share. And I thank him for that. I've got to go back to my electorate days and just mention one of the things that makes it a lot easier is working with the general electorate MPs, whether they're in your party or another party. So in Te Taihauru, there are 9 general electorates, and I got to work with, well, I would have worked with all of the Labour ones, but Chris Farfoy and Barbara Edmonds. We had Tangi Utikere and Ian Lees-Galloway, Steph Lewis, Glenn Bennett, Teresa Ngobi. I want to mention the National Party MPs that I got on really well with, actually. Ian McKelvey. And I knew Ian before I came to Parliament. So he was so easy to work with, and we could have really good discussions and do the best for our respective electorates. Louise Upster, I really enjoyed working with Louise. I remember we co-hosted the South Waikato, mostly from Tokoroa, down here at Parliament. That was an excellent kaupapa to be involved with. Jonathan Young worked with on the Waitara Lands Act, and Barbara Kruger in Taranaki King Country, the now Deputy Speaker. We had, from little things like approving JP applications that had come through the General Office, and they had spent that time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't have any speech notes, so I don't have anything to finish.
Well, I'm just helping you out.
So I can. It's one of the beauties of not actually writing a speech. But anyway, I want to continue to thank everyone. I think I did actually make a list of staff that and I also want to make sure I've said all their names. I've missed one. And she was a acting SPS temporary SPS in my office while Tian was on maternity leave, and that's Nina Sudiono Price. So I want to thank her. Sorry for missing you out. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank all of my colleagues for all of the support over the years, all the staff around Parliament that actually makes this place work. They are the real unsung heroes of this place. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ake ki a tātou katoa, I runga te tukungi iho, o iho ngā mano matua tama wairua tapu, me ngāna hera pono, ta maanga e tautoko mai, ai nei, ake nei, ai. And now I'm going to ask Willow Jean to start a white on my dad's side from Ngāpuhi.
adjournment at 7:30.
Live coverage from the House of Representatives will resume at 7:30 p.m. Until then, some of today's earlier proceedings will be repeated.